everybody, everyone. It was like a combination of everybody. It was like everybody. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Real Shame, a show where me and he talk about our list of movie blind spots, movies that we have not seen for whatever reason, one reason or another.
Yep.
And we're watching them and we're discussing them. On this week's episodes, we're going to tackle at least one movie from my list of shame, the movie that we're talking about today.
That's right.
It's an action movie, and Adam is going to tell us. Oh, I don't think we said our names. I'm Andy.
And I'm Adam.
And Adam is going to tell us about the action movie we're talking about today.
All right, here we go. Adventurer Alan Quartermain leads an expedition into the uncharted African territory in an attempt to locate an explorer who went missing during the search of the fabled diamonds mines of King Solomon. And King Solomon's mines. Imagine that.
Have another drink.
Oh, I need it. Today, that pair from London who were looking for a guide, they knew your name. Ever meet a man called Curtis? Henry Curtis?
No. Curtis? Yes, there was a fellow about 18 months ago, an Englishman. Tried to get me to go west into unexplored country. Had some crazy sort of notion about a lost diamond mine.
That's the man.
Yeah, well, I turned him down. It sounded like romantic foolishness. See, the fellow wants to go hunting now?
No.
Had a letter from him about 7 or 8 months ago. No, it was asking about him. Didn't make any sense.
It was his wife, Mrs. Curtis, who tried to engage you today.
A woman? A woman on safari? No, thank you.
She seemed very eager.
Listen, any woman who wants to go traipsing through jungle must have something the matter with her. Besides, I really am fed up at it.
The name is what the movie's about. I would say maybe not. King Solomon's Mines came out in 1950. Is written by Helen Deutsch and it's directed by two people. I don't know how common this was in the 50s, but it's strange to always see two directors, Compton Bennett and Andrew Martin. So King Solomon's Mine is based off a Sir Henry Rider Haggard book that came out in 1885. And he is an English writer that's known for his adventure fiction. And he's written a series of books, actually, about Alan Quartermain that is based, that these movies are based off of. King Solomon's Mine, Alan Quartermain. So we talked about an Alan Quartermain character once before. Do you remember?
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Played by Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. Great. I like that movie. It's not great, but I like it. And then King Solomon's Mine came up last month. Do you remember what movie? I mean, what movie did we do 2 weeks ago?
I don't even remember.
Congo.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so
my memory is failing.
Yep, we're old. So that's what we're doing today, King Solomon's Mine. Helen Deutsch, she actually is an Academy Award winner. She won 1 Oscar for a movie called Lily. She's also written Unsinkable Molly Brown, which I think we all kind of know is like a Titanic thing. And then The Glass Slipper. Compton Bennett has directed movies like How to Undress in Public Without Undue Embarrassment, which sounds perfect. I mean,
it's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful and it's pertinent. He also directed The Seventh Veil and Maneater. And Martin has directed The Thin Red Line, not the latest one. I guess the original.
The original.
Crack in the World, It Happened in Athens, and Green Fire. Then to round out everything else, this movie stars Deborah Kerr as Elizabeth Curtis. We have Stuart Granger as Alan Quartermain himself, Richard Carlson as John Good, Hugo Haas as Von Brun, A.K. Smith, and then we have Lowell Grimoire as Eric Masters. That was a mouthful. I said a lot. So like you said, this is a movie you haven't seen. It's a movie I haven't seen. I haven't seen any of the movies this week or next, but it doesn't matter because we're focusing on you this week. All of our gazes are pointing towards you. What did you know about King Solomon's Mine before you went into it? Have you read the book? And then you'll tell us what you thought about it.
I have not read the book, King Solomon's Mines. I actually have seen the 1980s remake.
Okay.
Which we might talk about.
Might come up later.
Very
Who knows?
soon, yeah. But, however, I didn't really remember much about it because I saw it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I probably was like in and out of the doors or whatever, running around like a kid. back then and probably not paying attention, so I didn't really remember the story. And I think the different movie versions have slightly different stories, or at least,
Oh yeah, I think
so,
yeah.
somewhat. So I really didn't know much about this at all. I mean, I obviously know who Deborah Kerr is. I mean, we've seen her in From Here to Eternity. I've seen her in plenty of other movies. Everybody else in the cast I wasn't really familiar with. I'm sure that Stuart Granger has done a lot more than just playing Alan Quatermain, but he did not look recognizable to me.
Yes, I agree.
And same with everybody else that was in the cast, with the exception of Deborah Kerr. So,
He looked like Steve Coogan to me, Stuart Granger.
Stuart Granger, yeah, I could see that actually. We got the little gray sides going on.
Steve Coogan.
I got the gray sides as well. So yeah, I mean, I was pretty blind going into this. So I think we sort of talk about this whenever we talk about the Andromeda Strain. I think when you watch a movie like this, you have to temper your expectations, because with a movie like this, that's a adventure film, because it was made in 1950 or came out in 1950. It's not going to be like it is today. If this were made today, The Rock or somebody would be playing Alan Quatermain, and I mean, it'd be like Jungle Cruise or something, right? And so it would be a lot more action packed, a lot more fast paced, that kind of thing. I think, if you're an audience in 1950, it's thrilling to see a movie in color, because most movies still at that point were in black and white, and this is Technicolor, but still color. You're seeing it was shot on location in Africa, so you're seeing the African landscapes and the different animals, the exotic animals, hyenas and big elephants and all kinds of stuff. And so I think that in itself would probably thrill 1950s audiences. It's probably not going to thrill audiences today. So I do think that you have to set your expectations not low, but just make sure that you kind of know what you're getting into, and that this is not going to be Jungle Cruise or whatever, Jumanji or something, Welcome to the Jungle, whatever they call it. Having said all that,
The Rundown.
Having said all that, I still found this movie pretty dull. To be honest with you, it's just, to me, there was not a lot going on other than, so Deborah Kerr is like, I'm looking for my husband. I'm not really sure if he's dead or alive. He's looking for these King Solomon's mines. They go off trekking, and it's like, she has some sort of, she's not dressed properly, or she sees a spider or a snake or something.
You're a woman. You're not allowed to do. You can't do this.
Yeah, so you'll get kind of the requisite stuff from Alan Quatermain. And then, they'll meet some tribesman or somebody that comes along, and he'll talk to them in Swahili or whatever. And they go, oh, there it is. And then rinse and repeat. And it was just kind of that throughout the movie. They finally do find King Solomon's mines, but it's pretty anticlimactic. And obviously I love old movies, so it has nothing to do with the fact that, this movie's old and I just can't get into it. Because we talked about a movie, Gunga Din from 1939, which is even older than this, that I think is really exciting and much more fun and fast-paced. I think it helps to have, Cary Grant and Victor McLaglen and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. cracking wise and stuff like that. So that helped a lot. But, these movies can be thrilling and entertaining. And unfortunately, even with kind of tempered expectations, this movie just was not very thrilling for me. I found it, again, fairly dull. Everybody does a good job. It's not like I had a problem with the acting or anything like that, but it was slow. It wasn't exciting, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same way, or did you find this to be more of a action-packed thrill ride than me?
Unfortunately, I found it to be the same way. I think for me, a lot of the trekking through the jungle, through Africa, is all one note.
Very much
like, it doesn't feel like there's, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of variety to it. It just feels like it's different situations, but it's the same tone, or it's the same kind of emotion and all that. And there's really no ups and downs or change. It just feels very one note. And about, 80% of the movie all the way through, I'm like, why is this movie called King Solomon's Mines? Like, it should be called like Search for King Solomon's Mine or something like that. And then you get like the last set piece, a spoiler alert, and you're like, okay, I guess they finally got here. They got to do this, but it's it's like, okay, but yeah, it's not very good. I mean, I was so kind of not well, I was watching the movie, but I wasn't like invested in the characters or anything. That I noticed that whenever Elizabeth took off her gloves, she did it twice. Did you notice that?
I did not.
Yeah, so she's sitting in like the what you think like a Pioneer kind of wagon, and she takes it off, and they cut to something, and then they cut back, and I guess they reuse that footage, and she's taking the same glove off the same hand again. I was like,
Movie mistake.
yeah.
Did you
I should
put it on IMDb?
I
It's
should.
probably already there.
I didn't do it, and I was kind of surprised. Like she was looking for her husband. And when she found his dead body, they were just kind of like, "Oh, he's dead."
I think she's just relieved because she's been cheating on him with
Yeah,
Alan
yeah,
Quatermain.
yeah.
So Deborah Kerr, she made a career, I guess, out of running around on her husband because she does
Yeah.
the same thing in From Here to Eternity.
Yeah.
She runs around with Burt Lancaster. They have the famous beach kissing scene. No, I'm only kidding. Those are like 2 movies
Yeah.
that she did where she does that.
But it's just like he's just like his bones are there or whatever. She's like, "Oh, well."
She's like, thank God, now I can sleep with Alan Quatermain
did
and not
he-
feel guilty.
Is it this one or the next one where he's saying that like she can't get her inheritance or she
It's
she
this
has the
one.
money? Yeah,
It's this
she has
one,
the
yeah.
money and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
they
so.
avoid that problem in the second one.
Yeah. They avoid a lot of things
Yeah.
in the second one. Yeah, I just kind of wish. I think you set this up correctly, or I like the way you set this up. Was that probably in the 1950s this was a lot more interesting, a lot thrilling. It wasn't stuff that we can take for granted. Like we can go on YouTube now and look at
Yeah.
safaris and see different creatures and stuff like that. And probably I don't know, maybe you'd have to go to the zoo in the 1950s to be able to see like a elephant, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
but I don't think it holds up to modern sensibilities at all.
Yeah.
And I wish again there was a little bit more variety. I wish we could have spent more time in King Solomon's Mines instead of just that being like the final set piece and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a little disappointing for me also. It was interesting you were talking about it being filmed in Africa because according to IMDb, MGM typically made 2 big overseas spectacles in a year, and there was a movie that was called, oh man, I can't even read that. Quo Vadis that got postponed, and so they decided to move this one up to film in its place. And the production equipment was trucked in and traveled a total distance of over 70,000 miles. That's crazy. And they used a convoy of Dodge trucks. There you go.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad they called it out. Then also I pulled from the IMDb trivia that when Deborah Kerr cuts her hair, which is odd that they do it in the movie, but they have it, I guess, that it made the audience laugh because of it.
Yeah.
But they had to keep it in because they had to explain how that looked,
Right.
later on because you just can't go from having long hair to having short hair or whatever. And the other thing, I got a couple more things. Did you know that the movie has no musical score? I didn't even notice.
I didn't notice that,
Yeah, me either.
honestly.
Yep. So I just got this movie, surprisingly to me, was nominated for a few Academy Awards, a few Oscars in the 1951 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Cinematography, Color, and nominated for Best Film Editing, of which it won 2, which is Best Cinematography, Color, and Best Film Editing.
Huh.
But it's crazy that this is a Best Picture nominee, to me.
That was slim pickings because
Slim
I think
pickings.
the winner for that year was The Greatest Show on Earth, which I think is a bad movie.
Okay, so
honestly.
they just
so I think it's slim pickings.
they were yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess we don't really have a whole lot to say about this movie. Anything you want to add to it? I mean, it's just kind of
Not really. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page here. It's just and again, I mean, you can have fun with older films. Obviously, we watch
Yeah.
plenty of older films and newer as well as newer films for this show. But I just did not find this exciting.
yeah. It didn't
I'll
connect to
take
me
Gunga
either.
Dean any day over this.
Yeah, it didn't connect to me either.
It
Oh.
is 92% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
So we're the minority.
Yes, 60% audience, and Leonard Maltin gives it 3.5 stars. I think he
Wow.
describes it as much more thrilling than we do.
Did he see it in 1950?
Uh,
He would have been.
I think he was
baby.
probably born around 1950. So he probably did see it as a kid, though.
All right. Well, that was King Solomon's Mines. On these Monday episodes, we like to talk about what we've been watching. So I'm going to hand it over to Andy. What have you been watching? Anything good?
Yeah, so it's funny because I guess it's been a few weeks since we filmed the last batch of episodes. I was looking at kind of what I had been watching, and I was like, "What's that movie?" Like I couldn't even. I saw the title, and I was like, "What is that?" Again, my
was
my
King
memory
Solomon's
is
Mine.
failing. It wasn't King Solomon's Mines, but I think I don't think I watched. I think I watched it prior to watching the movies that we're watching this week at all. But I was in the mood for an action movie, not because I was bored or anything by King Solomon's Mines. Like I say, I think I watched this before I watched this. Before I watched King Solomon's Mines. So I just was kind of looking around for something streaming, and I found, I think it's a Netflix movie, maybe. So Noomi Rapace, however you say her name,
Yeah.
I'm sure I probably mispronounced it. She has made a career lately out of making all these Netflix movies.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got like What Happened to Monday and Close, and the movie that I watched is called Unlocked, which Unlocked and Close, both of those films, because I've seen Close, in both of those films, she plays like a badass, action hero kind of person. In Close, she's a bodyguard who's hired to protect this younger kind of teenage girl. And then in this movie, it's called Unlocked that I watched. She is or I think she's still technically a CIA agent, but she's had like a traumatic experience in the field, and so now she's kind of behind the scenes, but they bring her out. She's the only one who can do such and such thing. She's the only one that can do something. And so she, kind of comes out.
She's the only one that can unlock a phone.
She's the only one that can unlock the phone. So they bring her back into the field to do this, and of course things go awry, and it turns into this chase. Basically they're kind of trying to hunt her down, and the bad guys are after her, and the good guys are trying to find her, and whatever, and blah blah blah. It's got her. It's got Michael Douglas. It's got Orlando Bloom. It's got Toni Collette. So pretty good cast. I was just really in the mood once again for something that was actiony.
Yeah.
I could turn my brain off for the most part, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I actually probably thought it was better than the movie Close that I mentioned that has her in it, where she's the bodyguard. But it's just kind of a fun little action movie, not super long as I recall. 90 minutes or something, so it's not doesn't go on and on and on from what I recall. But I thought it was okay.
Right.
It was decent enough. It's on Netflix. I believe it's a Netflix movie. I don't think it's just a movie that happens to be streaming on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix movie. The other movie that I want to mention is another action movie. So I know both you and I have seen the most recent Bond film, No Time to Die, and I don't think either one of us were very big fans of it. But one thing that we did like about it was, or I could be wrong. Were you a fan of it? I didn't really like it.
I thought it was okay.
I think our favorite part though was Ana de Armas as Paloma.
Yes.
That was so much fun.
She's awesome.
And so I know we'd love to see a spin-off movie with just the Paloma character. Well, Apple TV has a movie. She's not Paloma. She's not Paloma, but she's some badass, I think she's also a CIA agent.
I think so. Yeah, I've been wanting to see this. It's called Ghosted, right?
Ghosted with her and Chris Evans.
Yes.
So I was looking forward to it because I wanted to see, even though she's not Paloma, I wanted to see some of that Paloma action. And unfortunately, I just did not like this movie at all.
The reviews are terrible for it.
It's not, well, they're correct as far as I'm concerned. I think the Chris Evans character is just really weird in it. I mean, obviously, Chris Evans is a good-looking guy.
Is he incel?
Like, I'm not. Well, no, he's not. But I mean, he's an attractive guy. He's a handsome guy, right? But the character that he plays in this movie, he has like no game whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's just weird.
Yeah.
And I don't buy their like attraction or anything like that, because he's just such a weird and off-putting kind of guy with some of the things that he does in the film. Another thing that annoys the shit out of me as far as this movie goes is every time there's a big action sequence, they do a needle drop of some really, really popular song, and that's like what plays throughout the battle.
Shooting people there, they play like
It's
Let the Bodies Hit the Floor or something.
It's awful. Awful.
Ugh.
The most fun thing about the movie is there are some really fun cameos in the film. Some very brief appearances from people who you will obviously recognize. That's the best thing I can say about this movie, and that's the only really good thing I can say about this movie. I thought it was pretty terrible, honestly.
Well, that's sad.
I don't watch a ton of Apple TV movies. Of course, they don't really have a ton of movies, I feel like. But this is a stinker as far as I'm concerned. I was really disappointed because I wanted to see like a Paloma type vehicle, even though it's not that character.
Well, maybe somehow they'll make they'll do something. They'll do right by her.
They should.
And get some
they should,
good
because
action.
this Ghosted movie is not it. This movie.
It seems
is
like
crap.
Chris Evans' stuff post the Avengers has not been good. I mean, he was in Knives Out, but I think that might have been before Endgame. Maybe that wasn't. But like he was in The Gray Man, which I heard not great things about.
That, yeah.
Also directed by the Russo brothers, and then this. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't even think about the fact that it reunited them. They were both in Knives Out.
Yeah.
He and Andy Harris. I didn't think about that. Duh. Okay, that's what I've been watching. What have you been watching?
Well, you left something out that I'm going to mention that we watched together.
Okay.
It's a movie that is schlocky 80s, right?
Yeah.
Horror movie. Yeah. It's called Blades.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This movie is awesome, but not for the reasons why you think it's awesome. It's awesome because it's I don't want to say it's a shot for shot remake, but it's pretty darn close a plot for plot remake of Jaws.
Yeah.
But instead of a shark, you have a sentient lawnmower that kills people. But it is awesome in the fact that you could just draw the parallels to Jaws and be like, okay, this is that scene in Jaws. You know, this is the scene where he's standing, where they grab, they get the fake shark and the teeth aren't big enough. It's like, okay, then we have this scene in Blades, or, we're standing in front of the, the teeth of the shark, and then you're standing in front of this in Blades. Like those cues and those points that are directly aped from Jaws makes this movie so good and so fun. And it's it's a trauma movie, right? Wasn't it?
I think it's like it is connected in some way with trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just so cool, so fun, so random, but it was just a blast to watch, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You can point out like that's the Quint character, that's the Hooper character. It's pretty obvious who the Sheriff Brody character is.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's way more fun and way better than it really has any right to be.
Yes.
But it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
That was awesome. Yeah, so I wanted to call that one out because that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The other thing other two things I'll call out that I watched is Kirby and I watched this TV show that we told you about on Freevee, I believe, which is you can watch it through Amazon. And it's this show called Jury Duty that came out.
Because when you mentioned it, I was like, the Pauly Shore movie?
Yeah. So this is a recent TV show. There's 8 episodes that just finished a few weeks ago. The premise of this TV show is that it's a kind of a reality show where everyone that you see is an actor but one person. So they basically have this one person that's not in on it that is brought into this crazy courtroom scene with this crazy cast of characters and all that, and they're basically filming his reactions and filming all this stuff. And it could turn out to be like this is one of those punked kind of shows where it feels like they're really just punching down and just really mean spirited. But the last episode kind of enlightens you on what their goals were with everything, and you find out that that was, and the show isn't that way, and you find out that was actually on purpose. Like the show really wanted to really kind of build up this guy and not really make him the butt of jokes and all that kind of stuff, and the show realized that he's not going to know that he's not in on it, and these friendships he curates with the people that he's on jury duty with could be true to him. And so they were very sensitive to that and all that kind of stuff and cognizant of that, which makes the show that much better in my opinion, because they could just as easily be punching down and make this guy the butt of the jokes and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's from 2 people that were writers on The Office, on the American Office TV show. But it's a really good show. Kirby loves it to the moon. I had a lot of fun watching it, but it's a lot of fun. It's crazy. So it's easy to watch. There's commercials unfortunately on Freevee or whatever channel it's on, so you have to put up with those. But it's easy to watch, free. It's definitely worth your time.
Cool.
The last thing I'll call out is I've been kind of watching a few music documentaries here and there, and I watched one about Daft Punk called Daft Punk Unchained.
Uh-huh.
I remember when this movie was coming out because it seemed like it was going to be like a true behind the scenes stories of Daft Punk and all that kind of stuff. And I thought they were even going to get unmasked in the show. And I think I was incorrect on that premise. They definitely get unmasked. It does have earlier footage of them so you can see them as kids and all that kind of stuff. But I mean,
You mean as kids they didn't wear the helmets either?
they did not.
Oh.
No, it was in line with, it was actually with Y2K is when they donned the mask.
Wow.
They had like a whole plot about it where like that Y2K, I felt like that whole plot about it where the Y2K virus basically killed their human bodies and they got moved into robots or something like that.
They got like a whole story behind
Yeah,
it.
they had a whole story behind it. I don't
Wow.
remember the particulars about the story, but there was a story. So, and it's good. It's a good insight into Daft Punk. It's one of those documentaries that I like where I feel like I learned a lot more, and it was about a group I was kind of familiar with, but you know, I got to learn more about their history and all that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy the music documentary. I learned that they made a movie called Electorama that was pretty interesting and out there, and I want to see that. And then that all their music videos from the homework era from one era basically compiled together into a giant movie, and they actually have released that movie out, and it's called Interstellar 5555, I think is what it's called. So there's like all these music videos, you know, from this era kind of turned into one giant story, which is cool. So
I just remember the Around the World video.
yeah, that was directed by Michel Gondry.
It's a pretty cool video.
Yeah, very cool video. So yeah, it's just interesting stuff like that. It's a lot of it. It's not a bad thing, but it's a lot of the people they interview are French, and they speak their native language, which is French. So it's not one of those things you can kind of have on the background and not be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Because you know they're going to be speaking, and I'm like, I don't understand what they're saying. So you got to read subtitles. But that's not a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of. It's not a background kind of thing. So that's what I've been watching. We watched Blades. I watched Daft Punk Unchained, and I watched what was the other one I said? Oh, Jury Duty.
Jury Duty. All right, so today we talked about King Solomon's Mines, and I know we sort of hinted at it already. Yeah. What did you decide to pair with this 1950 version of King Solomon's Mines?
Yeah, I wanted to find something that was in the same kind of vein as this movie, and I looked, and I don't believe they in the 50s made a sequel or adapted any more of Henry Ryder Haggard's works. So I went to the 80s, and they've remade this movie a few times, but in 1985, Canon Films made a version of King Solomon's Mine, and it looked too good to pass up. So that's what I decided to pair this with. It's another retelling of the story of King Solomon's Mine, but this time with an updated cast and the 80s flair to it, which is also called King Solomon's Mine. So that's what I paired it with.
Cool.
All right. Well, stay tuned Wednesday to check that out. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff with the show. It does help. What? I thought I left something out.
No.
We really do appreciate it. And stay tuned Wednesday when we find out if we actually do get to King Solomon's Mines this time, or if we get to it early or not. And we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one.